Thomas Wiegand, Executive Director, Fraunhofer Heinrich-Hertz-Institute, Digital Communication and Processing.
Yeah, welcome. First of all, thanks for inviting me. I have to say, Christoph, Alexander, Sebastian, what a nice event. I'm glad to be here. I already can say this is a wonderful day. I want to talk about digital infrastructure, and this talk will be a little different because I have a slightly different perspective on all of this. I have never used a big one of these supercomputers. So let me first start with something here. This is an old picture I took from a paper by Peter Noll, a professor at the University of Berlin. He's already retired. He wrote about the history of communication technology in Germany, Nachrichtentechnik. And Horst Zuse, when he had a friend at the university, Helmut Schreier. And Helmut Schreier was doing communication technology, and Schreier said to him, "You got to do that with relays. It's actually not vacuum tubes, it's relays," which I learned today. So I learned something as well today. And so he basically got these relays from telephone booths from the university. I guess he borrowed them, and then until they got destroyed in the war. And this is a technical component he used. This was the old Technische Hochschule Berlin-Charlottenburg. This is the starting point of all communication technology in Germany. It was very famous until stupid things happened. And then the university was refounded as the Technical University of Berlin, and is now a great university here in the heart, and we are in the process of working together. An institute that's next to it is the Heinrich-Hertz-Institute. It's there since 1928, was founded by professors at the university. In 1928, we will have the 90th anniversary in 2 years. Let's see what we can do then. And this was the old building, and we are now in this new building there, and we're now working on photonic networks and components, video, and wireless networks. Now, this is a graph I made in order to motivate this talk. So I call this digital infrastructure, and I say in the middle we have the real world. That is humans and energy and materials and factories and cars and everything that's there out there. And in order to get a model of the real world into the computer, we have to do certain things. We have to sense them. There are different types of sensors out there. They have been there for ages before we even talked about this. And they would create data from the world. We would then have the bubble of communication, which is interacting with sensing. And then we have the third part, which is communication. So these three things need to be seen together. And you take one and the other, and they enhance each other. A progress in sensing makes computation better, or a progress in sensing makes communication better, and the other way around. And I will try to give you some examples how that works. So I'll start with sensing. So the backbone of the internet consists of fibers, optical fibers. You use these fibers because you can control the transmission channel. That makes your transmission efficient. You run a laser and you send it through the fiber, and this way you can be very efficient and very energy efficient in order to get your data through. But you can also use fibers to make sensors. Here's an example where we've taken a fiber and we put a so-called fiber bracket grid into it, where if light goes into the grid, depending on how you bend the fiber, the reflection depends on how you bend it. And this is a method to measure 3D shape. And we can put these little fibers onto gloves. And we can, for instance, make a glove with it. So let me see. Yeah, this is playing. So on the black glove is the hand of the person, and it has these fibers built into it. And the spooky part is the picture there, where the computer basically imitates what the fiber in the glove is doing. So we have already built an entire suit for this. And we can also equip dogs and cats, and we can do all sorts of fun things with that. Another one I wanted to show you is terahertz. Terahertz is the unloved child of our spectrum. You know, we have everything. We have at 10 to the power of 9 hertz, we use radar. And 10 to the power of 15, we have vision. That's where we see things. And 10 to the power of 18, we use X-ray for medicine. So the spectrum is used everywhere, but terahertz is the unloved child of our spectrum. However, apart from these bulky scanners at the airport, we can use it for other things. So we used our expertise in photonic transmission to build terahertz sensors, where we can actually detect and measure through certain materials. And so here's an example. This up there is an extruder for plastic pipes. The amount of plastic pipes that's being produced in this world is stunning. It's like 200 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon per year. And when you take these pipes and you run them through the machine, you need to know how thick the wall of those plastic tube pipes is. And in order to measure that, you can use these terahertz sensors. Another one is a nice 3D imaging of a USB stick, which is just fun to do. And another area where we are using sensors and we are enhancing it with computation. So the first two examples were how we took communication technology and made sensors out of it. Now we make a sensor, take a sensor, and we enhance it with computation. So this is our camera there, up there, and we put that camera everywhere we wanted to. So the Berlin Philharmonics use it, rock concerts, the World Cup final in the Maracanã Stadium. I had PhD students say, I carry the cables if I can go to the World Cup final. Anyway, so we shot all these events, and what we do is then with computation and compression and transmission, we take this data and we transmit them all over the world, and we are feeding off this current hype where people are putting these goggles on and see things. So it's great, and we can deliver high-quality 3D panoramic views. Another big area where I had the pleasure to work with Klaus Robert Müller was EEG measures. And we didn't use it to play ping pong left-right. We discussed it to measure visual quality. And if you think this event was great but I don't know what I learned, well, the main thing of this event, I hope, is actually probably networking. You talk to other people. So I met Klaus at one of these events in 2009, for another one of Sebastian's, the Falling Walls conference, which I can all recommend to you. And this is how we met. And then we had a coffee together. We walked around the Spree and talked about it. And he said to me, you know, if we stick an electrode to the back of your head, we can probably measure how you see things. And I said, oh, come on, that's just nuts. Are you crazy? Well, it actually works. So here's an example. You see on the horizontal axis, you see compression levels from a compression. So if it's stronger compressed, it's a higher number. And on the y-axis, you see our measured electric voltage. Well, this was the first start, and then we started building a model out of it. And we put it into a real compression system, because we can now evaluate quality from compression levels. And I hope you can see that. Yeah, I think you can see it. Yeah? So if you, for instance, look on the upper left corner into the trees, it's all mushy at that bit rate. And if we apply our measure and put more bits there, because we know they are needed there, you can see it. And we put this into our real-time encoding product, and the champion stick was transmitted with this last year, and maybe this year as well, the champion stick final. So next thing is computation. And one of my fields is video compression. I wanted to explain what it is. So an HD video uncoded is 600 megabits per second. Let's say this is 100%. I want to put this through a pipe, which is very small, 10 megabits per second. It's 1.7%. So I go from 100 to 1.7%. And then I blow it up again to 100%, and I hope that the result looks good enough for you to not call the transmission station and say, this video looks crap, like crap. And this is the idea. And it's used kind of everywhere. We have been very active, and this is, for instance, an area in communication we know we have to have standards. If our sender doesn't know what the receiver is going to do, it's impossible to send a signal that is easily to be used. And for instance, we're very active in international standardization, and we are also building these products there. And this is kind of important. This is the only performance slide I have, but this is my field, so I have to show it to you. So this is the Impact 2 was the standard that's used in DVB-T and in DVDs, and then H.264 is about 13 years old now. That's the one used for HD video and Blu-ray. And our new child is H.265, and it's again 50% better than H.264. It will be used in UHD and all these new streaming applications. And we are actually having a product that we are licensing, for instance, to Rohde & Schwarz, a traditional German company, who would then use these encoders to run broadcast and streaming over the internet. And why I'm telling you this, because we have added these things like the EEG optimization, machine learning, encoder decisions. They're all in here, and so far we've won all the tests. So, talking of machine learning, again, this is the data set that was mentioned earlier. This is a deep neural network mentioned earlier. Now, if this thing provides an automatic annotation, cancer, no cancer, that is a very important result. So the question is, do we trust this machine? Do we trust in particular that machine? Well, maybe not, but do we trust this other machine here? And what we've done is we took this deep neural network and we computed its inverse, and from that we can actually take what was the input relative to the classification result and map and create a heat map relative to the input that tells us what led to the classification. So here we have a 1 as a number, and we get the heat map that the 1 is the one giving us the result. Here we have a shark, and the triangle fin of the shark gave us the result that we actually found a shark. Why is this useful? Well, from that we actually know why the machine learning algorithm has determined this particular classification result, and we can actually go ahead and put it into an engineering design, because we know what works, what has to be observed in order to make this classification work. And if you have, at one point, in every DSL box in your neighborhood, a GPU made by NVIDIA, because you want to run this neural network there, and it makes estimates about what happens there over time and how we can improve the safety of certain areas, security, then we also need to know why the algorithm predicts this and that, and this method actually leads us there. And we also can answer important questions like what makes you look old and what makes you look attractive, so something that we also worked on. The last thing I wanted to talk about is communication and data management. Everybody has shown numbers about the amount of data that is being created. Well, this is a number about the number of bits that are being transmitted. So, since 1992, there's a factor of 14 million, and this continues by 30 to 90% per year. We had a talk, and I was almost tempted to put this into my talk, but I didn't, and I'm now regretting it, but I'm telling you this now. In communication, we also are reaching certain fundamental limits that have to do with physics. So, in a fiber, there are nonlinear effects. When you insert light into a fiber with too much energy, then at some point the nonlinear effects kick in and your entire performance goes to hell. So we cannot anymore, it will take until the end of the decade, but we are reaching a fundamental limit how much data we can transmit through a single mode fiber. So far we have been on this path, we can we increase the modulation scheme, we go ahead, we make things more complicated, more energy, and it's fine. The same effect, but it's very different, but it's as a result the same thing, is in mobile communications. We cannot go ahead and increase the energy that we blow into the air in order to get more bits across. Same problem, but the reasons are very different. It's interference and it's also nonlinear parts of the system. So we work very hard to, for instance, increase the data throughput with these fibers. And we upgrade submarine links. We also realized that LED lamps can be nice transmitters. So these are not LED, these are LED lamps, so we could use them for transmitting. The Wi-Fi doesn't work here, I've been told, so we could have had these LED lamps for transmission. One thing that I mentioned at the very beginning is that computing and communication are very heavily linked. If you don't get the data to your CPU, well, that's it. You can't do the computation. So we've been, for instance, involved in building and working on a supercomputer with IBM, and we built something that's a switchboard here, 64 in, 64 out, and you can basically route each of these inputs to any of the outputs, and it requires optical processing, and we built a semiconductor optical amplifier for that. So communication, advance in communication helps computation. And maybe it's in a notebook sometime, so it would be pretty nice. So we built these optochips, and these optochips are also used in sensors, not only in transmitting data across fibers, they're also used in running sensors. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is mobile networks. So when you go out and say, well, we got to do something about mobile networks, 5G will be mentioned, then a lot of people think, oh, that means lots of antenna, etc. No, a good mobile network is a lot of optical fiber and the smallest amount of radio that is possible. Okay, so if in your neighborhood the people are trying to get rid of this antenna they see up in the tower there, that's a big mistake, because your phone is connecting to that antenna, it is controlling its power, and what it means is when you hold it against your ear, this is the part where the power is relevant to your body, and if the antenna, the receiving antenna is far away, then the phone will be emitting a lot of energy, and that will be the issue. Okay, so these new networks will be lots of fiber everywhere, and the base stations will be very close, and we will be making very small cells, femtocells. Okay, and we will try to make radio beams that are directed to you. So at the moment, radio is being transmitted in sectors. And we have this problem, we transmit it in the sector, and then we are interfering with each other, and we have to get rid of the interference that we created in the first place. And we will be using sensors to detect your location so that you can directly get the radio beam with the data. So we have to use sensors to make radio better. It will be used in industry, for ultra-low delay and reliable communication. It will be used in traffic, particularly to make traffic more safe. If the car in front of you knows that the cars two in front of you knows the child runs onto the street, you get a warning within a millisecond, and boom, you can brake. And we're working towards the 5G network. Here in Berlin, excuse me. We're working towards 5G here in Berlin. We try to build up test beds in order to bring the whole subject forward. We want to show what 5G can do, in particular in combination with the applications that sit on top of 5G. So smart lighting, smart traffic, all these things that have been promised on top of these networks need to be also shown and implemented. To summarize, digital infrastructure, 3, mapping of the real world to data via sensoring and measurement. Then we are processing and communicating them. And my point was, you need to see them all together. Many people did the work here. I'm just giving you the talk. And for questions, I'm in room number 4. And I'm wearing that one.